Daily 8 English podcast
from Daily8English.
Hey, fellow English learners. It's good to see you all. Welcome back to Daily 8 English, where 8 minutes a day builds the fluency of a lifetime. I'm Tom.
And I'm Olivia. Let's get started.
Olivia, I have to tell you something embarrassing that happened to me once.
Oh, I'm already enjoying this. Go on.
So I was in London for the first time, right? And it was cold. So I walked into a shop and asked the assistant, "Excuse me, do you have any pants?" And she looked at me like I just said something absolutely scandalous.
Oh, no. Oh, Tom, no.
And I had no idea why. I just wanted trousers. But in British English, pants means underwear.
Which is why you got that look. In American English, pants means trousers. In British English, pants is very much your undergarments. Two completely different things.
And that is exactly what today's episode is about. Same language, same words, completely different meanings depending on which side of the Atlantic you're on.
We're going to walk you through some of the most confusing and, let's be honest, most entertaining differences between American and British English. Starting with clothing.
Let's do it. So we already covered pants. American pants equals British trousers. American underwear equals British pants or underpants. Simple enough, once you know it.
Next one, jumper. In British English, a jumper is a warm knitted top, what Americans would call a sweater. So when a British person says, "Grab your jumper, it's cold outside," they mean your sweater, not some kind of jumping outfit.
Which is what I pictured the first time I heard it. I was genuinely confused.
And then there's trainers. British English for what Americans call sneakers, sports shoes, running shoes. I bought a new pair of trainers. British, I bought a new pair of sneakers. American.
And waistcoat versus vest. In British English, a waistcoat is that sleeveless formal garment you wear over a shirt, part of a three-piece suit. In American English, that same thing is called a vest.
But here's where it gets interesting. In American English, a vest can also mean an undershirt, what the British would call a vest in that context. So vest means two completely different things depending on where you are.
This is why context is everything, people. Always pay attention to context.
Moving on, food, because this is where things get really fun. Let's start with chips. In American English, chips are thin, crispy slices of potato, what the British call crisps.
But in British English, chips are thick-cut fried potato, what Americans call fries. So fish and chips in the UK means fish and fries, not fish and potato crisps.
Which would be a very different dish entirely.
And biscuit. This one genuinely surprised me. In British English, a biscuit is a dry, sweet, baked snack, what Americans call a cookie. But in American English, a biscuit is a soft, fluffy bread roll, completely savory, often eaten with butter or gravy.
So if a British person offers you a biscuit with your tea, they mean a cookie. If an American restaurant offers you a biscuit with your meal, they mean a bread roll. Same word, completely different food.
And then there's aubergine versus eggplant. British English says aubergine, borrowed from French. American English says eggplant. Same vegetable, two completely different names.
Courgette versus zucchini. British courgette, American zucchini. Again, same vegetable borrowed from different languages.
It's like the two countries looked at the same vegetables and said, let's just pick completely different words for all of them.
Now let's talk about everyday life vocabulary, because this is where misunderstandings happen most often in real conversations. First one, flat versus apartment. British English uses flat for what Americans call an apartment.
I'm looking for a flat in the city center. British. I'm looking for an apartment downtown. American. Same thing, different words. And notice downtown versus city center too.
Lift versus elevator. British people take the lift. Americans take the elevator. Same thing, the box that moves you between floors.
Queue versus line. This one comes up constantly. In British English, you queue. You stand in a queue. In American English, you stand in line. Join the queue versus get in line.
And this one matters because if a British person tells you to join the queue and you've only ever heard get in line, you might not immediately connect the two. Now you will.
Mobile versus cell phone. British English, mobile. American English, cell phone or just cell. What's your mobile number versus what's your cell number? Same question, different word.
And post versus mail. British people send post and go to the post office. Americans send mail and go to, well, also the post office. But the everyday word is different. Did the post arrive versus did the mail come?
Here's another one that catches people off guard. Rubber versus eraser. In British English, a rubber is what you use to erase pencil marks. Completely normal school supply. But in American English, rubber means something very different. And saying, "Can I borrow your rubber?" to an American will get you a very confused look.
Very confused indeed. Americans say eraser, always eraser. Just to be safe, say eraser no matter where you are.
And boot versus trunk. When British people talk about the back storage compartment of a car, they say boot. I left the shopping in the boot. Americans call that the trunk. I left the groceries in the trunk.
And while we're on cars, bonnet versus hood. The cover over the engine in British English is the bonnet. In American English, it's the hood. The mechanic lifted the bonnet, British. The mechanic lifted the hood, American.
And one more for the road. Holiday versus vacation. When British people take time off and go somewhere, they go on holiday. We're going on holiday to Spain. Americans go on vacation. We're going on vacation to Florida.
And British people use holiday, even when they're just staying home and resting. Americans tend to use vacation specifically when they're traveling somewhere. So the overlap isn't perfect, but now you know both sides.
All right, word tour time. 6 words, 3 British, 3 American, all covering today's theme. I'll start. First pair, trousers versus pants. Trousers is the British word, pants is the American word, for the garment covering your legs. He walked in wearing smart trousers, British. He walked in wearing dress pants, American.
Second pair, crisps versus chips. Crisps is British for thin, salted potato snacks. Chips is American for the same thing. She opened a bag of crisps, British. She opened a bag of chips, American.
Third pair, queue versus line. Queue is British for an orderly row of waiting people. Line is American for the same. There was a long queue at the bank, British. There was a long line at the bank, American.
6 words, or really 6 pairs of words, that cover the same 6 things in 2 different Englishes. Trousers and pants, crisps and chips, queue and line. Learn both sides and you're covered anywhere in the world.
And here's your listener challenge. This week, pick one pair from today's episode and use both versions in a sentence. Write it down or say it out loud. For example, in the UK they say crisps, in the US they say chips. Just one pair. Own it.
It sounds small, but that kind of active practice is exactly how vocabulary sticks. You're not just hearing the words, you're using them.
So here's your reflection question. Have you ever used a word in English and got a confused reaction, and only later realized it was a British or American difference? Just sit with that for a moment.
Because that honest reflection, that's where real growth lives.
If today's episode helped you, hit subscribe. New episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I'm Tom.
I'm Olivia. Take care of yourselves, and we'll see you next time.